الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. قال الله تبارك وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم تلك آيات الكتاب الحكيم هدى ورحمة للمحسنين الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون ومن الناس من يشتري لهو الحديث ليضل عن سبيل الله بغير علم ويتخذها هزوا أولئك لهم عذاب مهين وإذا تتلى عليه آياتنا ولى مستكبرا كأن لم يسمعها كأن في أذنيه وقرا فبشره بعذاب أليم. صدق الله العظيم. These are the opening verses of the surah which is known as Surah Al-Luqman. Surah Al-Luqman is famous for the surah in which Nabi Luqman alayhi salatu wasalam gave unique advices to his son. In the surah it would be, Ya Bunayya, O my beloved son, do this, O my beloved son, do that. O my beloved son, understand that whatever happens in the heavens and the earth, Almighty Allah is well aware of it. This is a surah which laid the platform of how a parent is supposed to speak to a child. It laid the platform for what is called a Muslim lifestyle, a Muslim household. But unique in the beginning of the surah, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala brought what is called the basic principle for a house of Iman and a house of Kufr. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala started the surah Alif Lam Mim Tilka Ayatul Kitabil Hakim, that these are the verses of a Quran, that every verse is filled with wisdom. Hudaw wa rahmatan lil muhsinin, it is this Quran that will change a house. It will lead every household onto their path towards paradise. And it will bring mercy, such mercy that will bring Jannah in this world. There will be no drugs, there will be no anger, there will be no fights, there will be no swearing. It will be the people الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. In the house everyone will worry of their salah. وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةِ. When the time comes to give money for Allah, they will be ready to take it out. وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. They will be totally convinced of Allah and the year after. What will create all of this? Quran will create it. أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَىٰ هُدًى مِّن رَبِّهِمْ. As a horseman rides on a horse with confidence, compared to one who has never ridden before. The one who rides with confidence is called Allah, and he is really on the horse. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala explained those people who allowed Quran to come into their houses. They are firmly established on guidance. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. They are walking the path of success. So that is what everyone wants. Unique now, Quran will now paint what happens on the other side. What will take out Quran from the lives of people? Once Quran will come out, Salah will come out, Zakat will come out. The person will no longer really believe in the year after. His firmness which he had on the horse of Hidayat will now become wavering. Sometimes he'll be walking straight, majority of the time he'll be falling. What took out Quran from our lives? What changed our position? That when the adhan is given nowadays we say, hey, already salah. That there was a time where people, their life was to establish the salah. How we see money coming in and it makes us more happier. As they saw the approach of a salah time, it made them more happier. Quran was in their life. What took out Quran? In the world you call it co-wives. One can't see the other. If the one woman is there, the other one turns away. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this dunya and the year after are like co-wives. If you try to make one happy, the other one will get sad. What is the co-wife of Quran? And when that enters, then Quran walks out. And when Quran walks out, Salah walks out, Zakah walks out, Yaqeen on the Akhirah walks out. And one who is firm on Hidayat suddenly loses that confidence. And now every day is a struggle. Can I stand? Am I falling? I don't want to send the message, I'm sending the message. I don't want to do evil, but I'm doing evil. What made Quran turn away from us? Allah Tabarakala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ. And amongst mankind are those مَن يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ. The wording really means who purchase. But the Mufassirin explain, you don't have to go out and purchase with your wealth. This word purchase means they are amongst people those whose desire for something besides Quran is so much like the desire for one who wants to purchase something, that even if he is told you will have to take out money for it, he is ready. Almighty Allah says, amongst men there are those who are ready to purchase lahw al-hadith, that type of talk which has absolutely no benefit in it at all. Hadith means talk. Allama Ibn Kathir says, Almighty Allah explained that there are two types of hadith. One is Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadith, that Allah revealed the best talk. Kitabam mutashabiham mathani. It is a unique kitab, taqsha'irru minhu, that people when they hear it, a shiver goes through their body. Fear of Almighty Allah overtakes them. ثُمَّ تَلِينُ جُلُودُهُمْ وَقُلُوبُهُمْ إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. And suddenly their entire focus comes towards Almighty Allah. They become submissive for the deen of Allah. That is ahsan al-hadith. In contrast to ahsan al-hadith, which is called Quran, is this word which is known as lahw al-hadith. Lahw al-hadith means that talk in which there is no substance. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh then commented that what is Almighty Allah speaking about? What is this lahw al-hadith? He said, Wallah, by the qasam of Allah, وَالَّذِي لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ, by the qasam on that being, that He is the only one worthy of worship. 3 times he then said, lahw al-hadith, al-ghina, al-ghina, al-ghina. That what Almighty Allah is speaking about here is music. When music will come, Quran will leave. When Quran will leave, Salah will leave, Zakat will leave, Yaqeen on Akhirat will leave. Your firmness on Hidayat will lose, and now you will fall from the horse very fast. When Quran will leave, your hearts no longer will submit to Islam. Rather, your entire focus will turn towards what music is calling. You will become soft towards evil, whereas Quran would have made you soft towards deen. Allah Tabarakala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, amongst the people are those who are ready to purchase that talk in which there is no substance. لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those that know the Arabic language will understand that this lam that comes is called a lam of aqiba. Aqiba means once that person purchases this, whether you brought it in your house, whether it was a television set or whether it was the gramophone. There was a time in the world that people never saw music like us. But even at that time when Quran was revealed, although it was in a small circle, man was given a choice between moving towards ahsanul hadith Quran or towards lahul hadith, means music. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went out for the battle of Badr. His army was small. They did not have those weapons that the Quraysh had. They did not have the numbers that they had. They did not have the horses that they had. In every aspect the Quraysh had one more than them. But the difference between the army of Iman and the army of Kufr was that in the army of Iman there was no music. When the Quraysh came out to the battle of Badr, they came out with those songsters. But those women who are promising that if you win in this battle, when you come back we will give you favors, whatever you desire. It was music that accompanied one group. Where music goes, angels do not go. Where music goes, Allah's help does not go. The army of Iman had no music. That family that has no music will win its battle against kufr, even if its numbers are small. As soon as music will enter, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا تدخل الملائكة بيتا فيه جلجل ولا جرس. Forget huge musical empires. Forget that gramophone and that mics and that internet which is blasting with pop and rock. He said even a house which got a bell, and as that bell makes it ting, 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 just that bell which is the lowest form of music, that bell will chase the angels out of that house. He said the angels will never enter that house in which that bell is playing. وَلَا تَصْحَبُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ رُفْقًا. Forget a house. When man goes out into the journeys, in the Arab lands it was called qafla. Qafla meant a caravan is going out. On the road you don't know whether you'll get arrested, whether you'll get hijacked, whether you'll get killed. Their roads were like our roads of South Africa today. That if you get a puncture, finished. So as the caravan would go out, they gave it a name. In Arabic it was called qafla. Qafla means hope that you one day return. So many have died on this journey. So much of dua would be given with that caravan, that qafla. May Allah bring you back. May Allah be with you. Those very du'as that we read when we're going on safar. Allahumma anta al-khalifa. That, oh Allah, you are my sati in the safar. Anta sahibu fi safari. It's a very dangerous journey. So much of dua would be made for that qafla. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, but in that caravan, if there is the bell that is playing, then no matter how many du'as you made, Allah's mercy and the angels will not accompany the caravan. Music starts at a very small tingle which you bought for your small child. It was a unique beginning of the Surah Luqman, that a Nabi was going to give advice to his son. But as though Almighty Allah had made indication, even the advice of a Nabi to his beloved son would not benefit him if the beginning part of that child or that household was based on music. If you start your children with music, later on the advice of a Nabi of his era also will hold no weight. The beginning of the surah was to say it's either Quran, Ahsan al-Hadith, or it's either Lahul Hadees. If you bring Lahul Hadees in, Quran will walk the other door. These two will never remain in the same spot. Quran will bring you onto Salah. Lahul Hadees will pull you away from Salah. Quran will bring you onto Zakat and Yaqeen on the Akhirat. This music will remove your Yaqeen from the Akhirah. For which reason Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimullah, who was known as the second Umar, who became Khalifa at a time where he found in certain houses during his era, the Persian Empire had already collapsed, the Roman Empire had collapsed, the Muslim Khilafah was spreading far and wide. At that time the enemies of Islam understood the only way to bring weakness back into the Muslim world was through music. So from the lands of Rome they imported the principles of music. Because it was something unknown to the Muslims at that time, many of them began taking an interest in what is called principles. It was not the pop of today. It was not the banging and rocking of today. It was just those principles which today you learn in school, do, re, mi, fa, si, and whatever it is. Those principles were imported from Rome. They understood the only way the tree of Islam will now fall is if at the roots we can again put in the poison of music. Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahimullah becomes Khalifa at a time where he sees in certain households the shauq for this game, for this fun. Your daughter is going to school, mommy, I want to learn dancing. But the environment is good. There are only Muslim girls around. There are only women around. There is no boy looking at me. I just want to learn the principles of this tune, what it is. At that time, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimullah, he sent his child to the madrasa, and he said to the teacher of his child, لِيَكُنْ أَوَّلْ مَا يَعْتَقِدُونَ مِنْ أَدَبِكَ, that the first thing that my child must learn, not only learn, he must be convinced of. He must have yaqeen on it. May Allah make it's the first thing our own children learn. He said the first thing they must be convinced of before any teaching can carry on is bughdul malahi, the hatred for the instruments of music, hatred for the instruments of thrill. He said, let the first thing that my child learns and is convinced from you be the hatred for the ting, ting, ting. Why I am saying this, may Allah bring it into us, is because when our child comes into our house, many a time the first thing that we put in his hand is that phone that makes ting, ting, ting. That jaras and that musical tune that goes on that phone. Whenever someone phones, I don't like it, normal teet, 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 it doesn't sound good. It must be music. That music puts the poison at the roots of your children and your household. He said the first thing my child must learn from you is the hatred of that instruments of lahu. التي بدءها من الشيطان, that thing whose beginning is from the voice of Shaitan. وَعَاقِبَتُهَا سَخَطُ الرَّحْمَنِ, and its final is the anger of Allah descends upon that household. It started only when someone phoned you. It just had to do with a ting, ting, ting. It was so small, so small. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh said, Al-ghina يُنْبِتُ النِّفَاقَ فِي الْقَلْبِ كَمَا يُنْبِتُ الْمَاءُ الزَّرْعَ. Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahimullah said this to his ustad. He said, this news has reached me from the selected, that it is through music that hypocrisy will be created. What we understood is pop music, shaitani music, very heavy music. My son doesn't go to a rave, it's just 1-2 tunes that I'm playing on my phone. But that second part of his wording explained how it will create nifaq. He said, كَمَا يُنْبِتُ الْمَاءُ الزَّرْعَ, like how water makes the plants grow. He was not speaking of South Africa, a land of greenery, a land that if you don't put water, every day your plants will die. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh was speaking to people who understood the land of the desert. In the land of the desert, that plant survives without water. It needs only a little water, which might only come to it once a year. There is no rain in the deserts. But when that rain comes, a little water is sufficient for that plant to come to its strength. He was explaining that you don't need a lot of ghina. You don't need a lot of music. It's just a minimum amount needed at the beginning. And as that plant starts growing with little water, suddenly nifaq will start growing in the heart of your family. When nifaq will grow, the result of nifaq is that a person will start disliking that which Allah loves. And he will start loving that which Allah dislikes. He will feel hatred for Quran. And he will feel thrilled with anything besides Quran. His outside will show that I'm a believer, but inside himself he will even doubt whether I really want to believe or not. No one wants that for the children. No one wants it. That my own child must hate his deen. But it starts at the beginning. That if your child is not taught to hate this instrument, because this is the voice of Shaitan, in that music, if he cannot see the tongue of Shaitan, he cannot see the red eyes of the devil, that bughz and that hatred does not come in his heart as the first lesson he learns in this world. And there is a great fear that when your child grows up, or when you in your own house had to make a choice, Quran was already in the house. We inherited it. Quran was the first wife. But now that individual is thinking of taking another wife, even the halal wife which one man takes after his first wife creates such a qiyamah in the house. Those that are listening are all women. Just the word second wife makes a woman go into like an allergy. Just the word second wife. Although that second wife is completely halal, the second wife of Quran is this music. The day music enters any household, Quran starts walking out the other door. As that woman says, I'm not staying. Quran is pure, music is filthy. Man can never expect the two of them to remain under the same roof. The day any musical sound enters, go back home today and look at the toys you brought for your children. That rattle which goes ting, ting, ting. No longer see ting, ting, ting in the rattle. In the rattle you can write above it that Rasulullah ﷺ said the angels will never enter such a house. They were not talking about rap. They were not talking about Michael Jackson. It was one bell that was playing, and on that Nabi ﷺ said the angels will not enter. As they went to the battle of Badr, the one thing that the army of Rahman had, which the army of Shaitan did not have, was the divine help of Almighty Allah. The divine help of Almighty Allah came upon that army which did not have the sound of music behind them. Later on, the Islamic empire collapsed. It collapsed to the extent that no longer the Khilafah ever stood. On the collapse of the Khilafah, when people looked what had brought about the destruction of the entire Muslim army, no one could stand any longer. I will just read to you a little to understand what this music was, why it had to be brought. Michael Jackson and our today Madonna and whatever Lady Gaga you got, these were not just created individuals. There were shayateen that were brought into the world. When I visited England once, what amazed me at the airport was as you're walking, then they're showing you the thrills of the country. In South Africa, you might see the Kruger National Park, and you might see Table Mountain. So as you enter an airport, as you're walking past, you're going to where customs is, on the two sides of you on the walls is always paintings of what is the thrill of that country. So many of the pictures in England, in the Heathrow airport, was about this group which was called the Beatles. Now this group, the Beatles, when they died, some of them I think committed suicide. They never really do anything. But for the land of Britain, this was a hero greater than the kings and queens of Britain. Because the Beatles brought in them a culture which destroyed the entire religious life of the land of England. How we in Islam have our masjid that rules, our Quran that rules. In the lands of Europe, once upon a time, they had the church rules. Although the church was evil, but it was still religious. To break the hold of the religious church from the hearts and the minds of people, the prime magic that was used was going to be music. When the war on Islam started, at that time the country which was known as the power, which was the markaz of Islamic fatwa, was Egypt. Al-Azhar was the main university of the entire Muslim world. The best of the scholars were in the land of Egypt. So I will just read to you a little about Egypt, what happened in Egypt, and then you can understand what happened in the rest of the world. What is music? Why is it pushed so fast, so much? Why do they need people to collapse under music? Is it just while singing, dancing, enjoying? Or is it that in the poison of music is the breaking of the entire tree of Islam? Al-ghina yumbitu nifaqa. how water will make that plant grow in the desert. They needed that water of music. When that music would hit the ears of the Muslim world, it would bring about the collapse not of a family, not of an army, of an entire empire of Islam, which before this time had never submitted to the world of kufr. There is a book which is called Slippery Stone. Khalid Beg wrote a book regarding music, but the name that he chose, Slippery Stone, was on this, that whoever stood on that stone of music found very fast after that they began slipping into every evil that came after. So in that book he wrote, Egypt after Napoleon. He explains after Napoleon left, Muhammad Ali Pasha ruled from 1805 to 1848. His desire was to make the entire Egypt into Europe. He would loudly say, my country is no longer in Africa. My country is part of Europe. At the same time he said that through the Suez Canal we will keep the independence of Egypt. But that was just a wish, because once he said that music, I want to make my land like a land of Europe, it meant that in my land the help of Allah will never now come. So he writes that to break the land of Egypt, what music or what magic they used. So he says radio broadcast started in the 1920s. It came to the Muslim world in the 1930s. It was promoted heavily by the colonial masters. For example, in 1936, radio licenses in India were being issued at a rate of 1,500 a month. The British government set up loudspeakers in public places to broadcast radio in villages. The pace was much faster in Egypt, where the first radio program was aired on the 31st May. By 1956, there were 405,000 radio receivers in Egypt. In the next 4 years, the number jumped to over 1 million. This is same like your phones today, your televisions today. Why so much of effort that it must come into the house of every Muslim family? He says the birth of a legend. Her name was Kulthum. She would reign for nearly half a century. She was on the radio from its first day in 1934. In 1937 began the Kulthum night. On the first Thursday of every month, for 8 months per year, a concert would be broadcast live to the entire Arab world, from Casablanca in the west to Baghdad in the east. It would continue for 36 years. During these concerts, which lasted each about 5 hours, this was not a half an hour bayan, 5 hours every Thursday, first Thursday of every month. So once a month for 5 hours. During that 5 hours, life in the Arab world would come to a crawl. From the poor Bedouin to the millionaire businessman, everyone listened to her. There are stories that the president at that time postponed the speech to avoid conflict with one of her consists. A military general postponed a military exercise. When she died, her funeral was bigger than that of Nasir, with a reported 4 million people attending. But look at this girl, Kulthum. She was able to attract millions of people for 5 hours a month. She came from a poor but religious family. Look at this. She came from a poor but a religious family. She was born in a small village in Egypt where her father used to recite the Quran to supplement his income. He was a Qari. She began her career at the same gatherings. She would sing to the women Islamic songs, no instruments. Then her father took her to Cairo, to the bigger market. At her first performance there, she wore the niqab. She was only 14 years old when she was brought into the bigger arena. Then she began singing such words that took her to the heights of kufr. From a girl who saw the niqab, who saw Quran, whose father was a qari, to a girl who later on would sing, and she would say, "Oh socialists, you are our leader." And she would explain how wonderful the Western world is and how evil Islam is. What made her like that? What made her so important for the shaitani world? With her voice and with her tongue, she was able to say such filth that the rest of the world would just move. A better example is the girl that is known as Gohar Jan. Gohar Jan you will not know, but in Egypt, in India she was famous. It was the time when the gramophone just started. This girl Gohar Jan, why she is so important for this bayan, is to understand that before music started on an international scale, in the land of Egypt there were prostitutes, there were musicians. This girl was a Jewish girl. These Jewish girls were known as tawaif, prostitutes. They would be taken to what was known as the centers of vice, the kotha. In the centers of vice, they would be at the same time serving alcohol. Then they would be giving their bodies. No man of any honor would ever go near them. They were regarded as the slime, the dirt, the muck of India. Without the gramophone, Gohar Jan would have spent her life in the kosas of Calcutta. But when the gramophone came, understand this, when that music is playing in your house or on your radio, that musician is no one but the same Gohar Jan. That musician is no one but nothing but a prostitute. Had music not been coming to your radio, to your television, to your phone, to your internet, this Gohar Jan would have remained in the kothas, in the vice dens. But with technology, she entered into the mainstream of the world. It changed her from a prostitute into a celebrity. It brought her to the living room of every house. To such an extent that when Britain began marketing this girl, they took her a lovely picture in which the gramophone was in the center of the house. On the one side was the husband, on the other side was the wife smiling. But if only that wife understood that if my husband last night had to go to the kotha, and he had to go see this Gohar Jan, and he had to look at her singing and dancing, then when he came home at night there would have been a fight in the house. I would have been waiting at the door. I would have asked him, how could you dare go and look at a nude, filthy prostitute whole night? But when the gramophone entered the house, the wife sat on the other side smiling. The son and the daughter sat, and suddenly Madonna was in the house. Michael Jackson was in the house. Zina was in the house. Adultery was in the house. Everything was in the house. Today's television, today's internet, today's marketing of the shaitani music, when it looks so smart, if only we can have yaqeen on the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I guarantee you when you look at that musician, you will see nothing but shaitaniyat in her. Immediately you will pull away. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, 2 groups from the people of Jahannam, I have not seen them as yet, but I saw them burning in Jahannam. He said the one group was that group of men I saw, that in their hands they had something like a whip. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was shown the error of what we call the colonialism of the world. Where the European masters went into different countries, where young people, old people were grabbed as slaves, whether it was South Africa, whether it was Africa, whether it was Indonesia, and the whip was used to make man do what he did not want to do. With their guns and their weapons, they were able to subdue the armies. But with their whips, they were able to make man pick up bricks, drop bricks, build houses, build forts, work from the beginning till the ending. They did not have to give them food, they did not have to give them shelter. They had no rights, it was the work that was talking. He said, one group of Jahannam which I saw was those people who will have whips in their hands. He said, the second group that I saw was a group of women, Ma'ilat, Mumilat, Kasiyat, Ariyat, a group of women who will be wearing clothes that will be so little that she will be totally naked. A group of women who will be wearing such clothing, Kasiyat, that had she not been wearing that clothes, perhaps would have been better. That clothing will make her look more desirous than even if she was totally naked. Such women who will be wearing clothing but they will be totally naked. Ma'ilat, Mumilat, they themselves will be desirous of any man. Mumilat, and their entire purpose in life will be to gain the desire of the entire world of men. As their bodies will move, it will be one purpose. Your eyes is for my body, your eyes is for my body. My body must be in your closet. My body must be on your bag. My body must be on your pyjama. My body must be in your heart. It must become so engraved. We know of recent times a princess in the lands, one of the lands of the Western world, whether she died later on with Iman or without Iman. There are those that said she died as a Muslim. But during the time when she was not Muslim, her body was portrayed to the world so much. When we were small, it was that woman died. But we are speaking about Princess Diana. We remember the time that old men were seen crying when they heard of her passing away. And we could not understand what this auntie got to do with this uncle. This uncle is in South Africa. He perhaps never saw that princess. There were some people who even at that time asked that I heard that she died with Iman, is it true? So when Alim said, what is it got to do with you? He said that at least I know I'll see her in paradise. So much was that desire. So much. Ma'ilat, Mumilat, you will not understand what that musician is doing. As her body moves, that body settles in the heart of that individual. When the time of kalima comes to be recited at the time of death, it is that shaitani face that will never allow kalima to come out. Ma'ilat, Mumilat. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then gave the final description which was unique on the spot. He said, on their heads they will have a hairstyle which will be very similar to the Bactrian camel. They will have a hairstyle which will be very similar to the Bactrian camel. For many years I used to look at this narration and wonder that which woman is it? Until one day when I was discussing with one friend, he said, no, the Bactrian camel is not famous in the Arab lands. It's a special camel. And that hump of that camel is different from the normal hump. So he told me, you're thinking of a normal hump, that's why you're looking in the world, who got it? He showed me then a picture of a Bactrian camel. The Bactrian camel's hump is not like a normal camel's hump. It is like wild hair. I don't know how to explain it to you. It is a picture to be seen. Or you see that hair of that camel. Normally I do not ever look at pictures. Pictures is the stepping stone towards further evil. But because he showed it to me at that point, and he said, this is the picture of a Bactrian camel's hump. And then he said to me, the musicians of the world, their hairstyle resembles this camel, ayn, to the T. He says, perhaps Allah's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was referring to others, but definitely he was referring to them as well. The hair of that woman as it stands high, as it is made of a brownish color, and that style that it moves, not straight but with a slight curve, exact you will find the Bactrian camel. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a group from the people of Jahannam, so far from Jannah. He said, forget ever seeing Jannah. They will never even smell one fragrance from the fragrance of Jannah. And then he said, even though the fragrance of Jannah will journey sometimes to a distance of 500 years, Allah Tabarakala will not even allow that fragrance to ever reach them. These are those shaitani musicians that the world has put up. When you are listening to music, understand that it is not just one sound. Allah Tabarakala mentioned, وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ بِصَوْتِكَ. When Shaitan was told, go out in the world and grab who you want to grab, اذهب, go out. فَمَنْ تَبِعَكَ مِنْهُمْ فَإِنَّ جَهَنَّمَ جَزَاؤُكُمْ جَزَاءً مَوْفُورًا. And those that will walk behind you, that as you will fall into Jahannam headlong, they will fall with you. And as your punishment will be Jahannam, which will be a full punishment for your actions, then Jahannam will be a punishment for them, which will also be a full punishment for their actions. Understand this verse. Iblis, Shaitan, openly denied Almighty Allah. He openly refused to make sajda. He was told your punishment will be Jahannam and it will be a full punishment for your crime. And then he was told, and that group that walks behind you, they will also be given the exact punishment. وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ بِصَوْتِكَ. Immediately after that ayat, Allah Tabarakala said to Shaitan, go out. Istafziz means istakhaffa. Khafif means to make light. To make light means to make a person lose his stability. A person is strong. He says, no one can beat me. No one can influence me. Then in the Arabic language there's a word which is called istighfaf. Khafif. That I make that person lose his stability. I make him lose his mind. I make him lose his power and authority. I make him now just run behind me like how one sheep runs behind the other sheep. Shaitan was told, your voice will be used to make man and woman of this world lose control over their own selves. They will lose their ability to say no. They will lose their ability to think correctly. Just like how khamar makes the mind clouded. Ulama have written exactly the same with music. وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ بِصَوْتِكَ. Go out in the world and with your voice. That word voice, that word sawt, is very general. But Mufassirin have mentioned the first meaning of this word sawt is the voice of music that would spread in the world. Whether it was Michael Jackson, whether it's Madonna, whether it's Gaga, whether it's whoever has come today. When that one sings, many a time perhaps that individual doesn't even understand that words that were written by the shayateen themselves. They were just brought up. They were once upon a time orphans. They would not be given anything in the world. But suddenly, because they allowed their tongue to be made as an instrument for the word of Shaitan, suddenly they were put up high in the world. They would become legends, they would become gods. Because as the voice of Shaitan would spread, had Iblis himself come in front of me and you, with his ugly figure if he had to dance, with his ugly figure if he had to sing, even if it was the sweetest of sounds, knowing it is Shaitan, he would have said, A'udhu Billah. So instead of Shaitan saying it himself, all he had to do was pick up one orphan, pick up a prostitute. Thereafter, however he dressed her, whether she's dressed ugly, whether he's ugly, they would put them in the media such. A few years ago we got stuck in traffic. We really thought perhaps there's a janaza or someone's funeral, or there's an accident. On that day it was nothing but Justin Bieber. His concert was taking place on that road, so everyone was going. That was my first meeting with Justin Bieber. I saw a picture of him. I never really understood that picture to be so handsome. He never had really any thrilling look. The next day when we read the newspapers, forget interviewing non-Muslim women. In the newspaper they made sure they put the interview of Muslim women. First it was young girls who were saying we're thrilled to be in front of him. But then they even had an old auntie. She could have perhaps been a granny also. And she said, I love Justin Bieber. That boy's face really had no real thrill in it for an old granny to fall in love with him. But music is this. That young girl would give her body over. It seems that old auntie would also give herself over. Music was created as gods because Shaitan would be the voice behind music. Very quickly I will explain to you what this music will do. The first is, as this verse explained, istifzaz. No matter how much of strength you have over your iman, when you will allow music to enter into your life, you will find your stability on deen will break. Now if a boy talks to you, suddenly your heart will crack. If evil is shown in front of you, you'll walk towards it. You will lose control over your ability to say no. Why? Because istifzaz means make their brakes weak. When the car got no brakes, you don't have to go fast, but you will still have an accident. So many women today in niqab and parda also are having these accidents. They are having major accidents and they're crying after that. And they can't understand why can't they say no when they are being pulled with an SMS. One reason is that your beginning started with music. Sometimes when you were just tired, you felt, let me just hear a rhyme. What I'm saying is not rap and roll, whatever you call it. I am even speaking about some nasheeds that girls listen to in their houses. Some of those Islamic songs are really songs which should not be heard. Some of them also are being used by Shaitan to make your brakes give in. Because a woman in niqab is not immediately going to start listening to Michael Jackson. But music, what is the guideline between what is allowed in nazm and what is not allowed at all? The guideline is, when you hear it and it makes you calm, it makes you relaxed, then understand that in this there is the elements of music. What is an Islamic poem? That as you hear it, tears come down your eyes. It has to be on the same level of Quran. ثُمَّ تَلِينُ جُلُودُهُمْ وَقُلُوبُهُمْ إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. That the effect of an Islamic poem must be such, it must spur you more towards your deen. It must make your heart soft towards Almighty Allah. It must create a tremor of fear when you hear Jahannam. If your Islamic song makes you relaxed, it makes you get a life of pleasure, it makes you take away that stress which was on your head, understand you're not listening to anything Islamic. You are listening to al-ghina, but which was covered with the niqab, because it had to come to a Muslim girl or to a Muslim boy. Even that music will break your brakes. When those brakes collapse and you start down that stone, you will see it's so slippery that after that it's very hard to walk back to the point where you started. The first harm of this year is istifzaz. Your braking system will collapse. Second harm, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Shaitan mal'unan fi dunya wal akhirah. There are two sounds which attract the curse of Almighty Allah in this world and in the year after. In this world it will bring Jahannam upon you. In the year after you will find yourself far from Allah. What are those two sounds? Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained this when his own son Ibrahim radiallahu anh passed away. Someone screamed. At that time Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, we have been allowed by Almighty Allah to cry. He said, but there are two sounds which draw the anger, the curse of Almighty Allah. One is the sound at the time of a difficulty. He said it is a scream of Shaitan. It is a scream in anger. It is what? He said that word that comes out is as though man said to Allah, what did you do to me? He said that scream is a scream of Shaitan, and immediately Allah's mercy left from the family. And he said the second is at the time of happiness, ni'mah. Now there is no calamity, now there is no problem, now you are living a nice life. He says at the time of happiness, mizmarun inda ni'mah, mizmaru shaitan. He said when you allow the flute of Shaitan to come out, at the times in your life when things are going well, understand as that flute came out, the happiness of Almighty Allah left it. You became engulfed in a curse. La'na means al-bu'du an rahmatillah. You have been removed from the mercy of Allah. Nabi Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam said, no one will ever be protected from the spurring of his nafs unless he remains in the circle of Allah's mercy. Come out of that circle and your nafs will pull you to any Zulaykha and to any Junaid. Today why so much of zina is taking place is the flute of Shaitan started it. Fudail ibn Ayaz, who was a wali of his era, he did not see the era of technology. He did not see the era of rock and roll. He did not see the era of wild, heavy. He saw the era where in a Muslim world music started, which was on the lowest level. At that time he said, al-ghina ruqiyatu zina. He said, I guarantee you this music is the ladder which leads up to zina. He said, I guarantee you this music is a ladder which will take you up to zina. A Khalif entered the courts. Just before him, the previous leader was known for a man of music. Because of his love of music, alcohol entered the courts. Finally, he was overthrown, he was executed. They wanted to rid the court of this evil. When he entered the court, he gave an advice. He said, "Oh my people, iyakum al-ghina." He said, please stay very far away from this music. فَإِنَّهُ يُنْقِصُ الْحَيَاءَ. He said, I have seen the results of it. Result number one, it removes the modesty of an individual. In today's time, why girls are ready to send such funny messages, and why when a boy tells a girl, show me your body, she's ready to show her body. That thing which she never thought she would show to the world, she suddenly takes a snap of it, and that boy then spreads it in the entire world. She's ready to hear such filthy messages from him and herself send filthy messages. Later on in life, she said, I don't know what happened to me. He says, music will remove your modesty. وَيَزِيدُ فِي الشَّهْوَةِ. It will increase your desires. You will be burning high. وَيَهْدِمُ الْمُرُوَةِ. It will remove your social standing in the world. You will no longer be regarded as a respectable person. وَإِنَّهُ لَيَنُوبُ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ. He said, music is the sister of liquor. As liquor covers your mind, music also covers. وَيَفْعَلُ مَا يَفْعَلُ السُّكْرِ. It does the same thing what an intoxicant does. Then he said to his people, فَإِن كُنْتُمْ لَا بُدَّ فَاعِلِينَ. Some of them were addicted to music. He said, I beg you stay away from this. He said, but if you can't stay away, فَجَنِّبُوهُ النِّسَاءَ. He said, then at least don't let it come to the woman. فَإِنَّ الْغِنَى دَاعِيَةُ الزِّنَى. He said, because when music will come to the woman, it's going to make prostitutes out of all of them. Your daughter could be well covered at the beginning. Music can remove that niqab. Music can make a virgin lose her virginity that night. So harm number one is istifzaz. You will lose your braking system. Harm number two is, it is the ladder towards zina. You could be in a world of niqab and Islam and iman. It can pull you right up to and you lose your chastity the next day. Harm number 3 is what we mentioned at the beginning, nifaq. You will suddenly find you don't like Islam, you don't like Almighty Allah, you don't like Quran. You will wonder what happened. It was one tone at the beginning. You put one poison at your root, and suddenly your tree will no longer stand. We'll just revise again what was mentioned. First was the verse of Quran where Allah Ta'ala explained. It was the advice of Nabi Luqman alayhi salatu wasalam to his son. But as I said, the advice of a Nabi to his son also will not help if the foundation is not there. The foundation for this ummah is called Quran. Quran you must regard it as a co-wife to what is called Lahul Hadees. If you allow one to enter the house, the other one is leaving. Quran will bring salah, zakat, iman and akhirah. It will keep you firm on your deen. You allow music to enter your lives, and Quran will leave. When Quran will leave, the result will be وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِ آيَاتُنَا. In that same verse, Allah Ta'ala says, now when my Quran is read upon that individual, وَاللَّا مُسْتَكْبِرًا, that very girl, that very boy turns around. كَأَلَّمْ يَسْمَعَهَا, they behave as though they never heard Quran. It is difficult on the head. كَأَنَّ فِي أُذُنَيْهِ وَقْرًا, they behave as though something is stuck in their ears. فَبَشِّرْهُ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Almighty Allah says, what else do they expect but a severe punishment? Quran and music can never go together. So we started on that. And let the basis of your child's upbringing be, like Umar bin Abdul Aziz said, from day one he must hate the sound of music. He must hate the bell. He must hate the ting, ting, ting of every musical toy. He must understand when music comes in, the angels of Allah go out. The second point we mentioned was istifzaz. Allah Ta'ala said to Shaitan, go out and take people who are yours. But how he will grab them? Who will ever fall for Shaitan? So he was told, break their systems, break their stability, break their brakes. Bisawtika, by using your voice. When that voice will come on the Muslim world, when it will fall on the ears of the Muslim world, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in one hadith, and this hadith you can see it today in the rave clubs, you can see it with the pop culture. You get this wording. He said, لَيَشْرَبَنَّ أُنَاسٌ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي الْخَمْرَ. Without doubt, it will definitely happen that a huge group of my ummah will start taking al-khamr. Khamr in the past meant liquor. يُسَمُّونَهَا بِغَيْرِ اسْمِهَا. It will have some other name. They will be taking intoxicants. Khamr means that which covers the mind. Whether it will be drugs that are being blown in the air of the rave clubs, or whether it's the different drinks that our boys and girls are today drinking. They are going mad, they are going wild. Look at that rave club and think of this hadith. One is drugs are coming in the air, the mind is being clouded. Boys and girls got something in their hand, a bottle is being sipped. Then he said, يُعْزَفُ عَلَى رُؤُوسِهِمْ بِالْمَعَازِفِ وَالْمُغَنِّيَاتِ. Look at this wording. Perhaps people in the past could never imagine how this wording must be translated. He said, from on top of them, عَلَى رُؤُوسِهِمْ, from above them, there will be drums that is being beaten, and there will be mughanniyat that will be singing. And the past people would wonder why on top of them. The musician is supposed to be in front of you. But when you enter these clubs, you will understand what it means. First, the stage is high, but then the music is blasting from speakers all around. It is a unique example of where the drums will be falling on their heads. The singers will be singing from above their heads. Allah Ta'ala will hate them so much. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, until finally upon them such a punishment will fall that they will be sucked into the earth, and Allah will convert some of them into monkeys and into pigs. Whether this happened already, we are not sure. But we do know that there was a time where so many of these people were found dancing at a military base in Turkey. This was before the time of the Muslim rule that has now come. And that night there was a severe storm. And the next morning that entire base was found at the bottom of the waters. And divers who went to find those bodies, amongst the beginning few that sent out a message, spoke about the figure of the face that he found. And thereafter the media just covered the entire thing, meaning closed the chapter. Most likely those people really were changed into pigs and into monkeys. That will be the worst punishment. However, for your own and my own, our progeny when they visit, even if their outsides are not made like pigs and monkeys, you must understand this music is making their inside like pigs and monkeys. It converts them completely. So I will end with one poem. Allama Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah explained this. But he tried to show that why have people of the past always said that there is no difference between music and liquor. The first he said is, he explained why Quran and music can never go together. He said, حُبُّ الْكِتَابِ وَحُبُّ أَلْحَانِ الْغِنَى. The love of the Quran and the love of the tone of the musician, فِي قَلْبِ عَبْدٍ لَيْسَ يَجْتَمِعًا. The two of them can never gather in the same heart. He said, you must choose which one you want. And look at what he said. He said, how wonderful a poet said. I will end on this. I want you to think about it. Think about it, Lord, how far we are for the love of music. Because that's how far we are from the love of Quran. He said, تُلِيَ الْكِتَابُ فَأَتْرَقُوا لَا خِيفَةً. He said, Quran was recited. They put their heads down not in fear of Quran, not in fear of Allah. لَكِنَّهُ إِطْرَاقُ سَاهٍ لَهِ. Rather they put their heads down because they were bored. It was not thrilling them. وَأَتَى الْغِنَى فَكَالْحَمِيرِ تَنَاهَقُ. Suddenly music came in, and like donkeys they began braying. Look at his wording. He never saw our pop culture today, where our girls, our boys, our mothers, our fathers are really braying like donkeys. They're moving wild. He never saw what we see today. Imagine had he seen what he would have described. He said, man, music came, and like donkeys they began braying. Wallahi ma raqasu li ajlillah. By the qasam of Allah, for Allah they could not move their bodies. But now when music came, they began dancing like animals. Duffun wa mizmarun wa na'matu shadibin. He said there was the flute, there was the drums, there was the guitar. فَمَتَى رَأَيْتَ عِبَادَةً بِمَلَاهِ. Have you ever seen Allah's worship being done with musical instruments? إِلَّمْ يَكُنْ خَمْرُ الْجُسُومِ. He says, even if it is not liquor that makes the body intoxicated, فَإِنَّهُ خَمْرُ الْأُقُولِ مُمَاثِلٌ وَمُضَاهِ. He says, but it's the same. This covers the mind like how liquor covers the mind. فَانْظُرْ إِلَى النَّشْوَانِ عِنْدَ شَرَابِهِ. He says, look at the intoxicated man when he's drunk. How he's walking. He doesn't know who's his mother, who's his father. He passes by a man and he says, Mrs., how are you? And everyone starts laughing. He says, وَانْظُرْ إِلَى النِّسْوَانِ عِنْدَ مَلَاهِ. He says, and then look at the girls, how they behave when music is being played. She also forgets who's her brother and who's her neighbor. She also forgets who's a ustad. She also forgets what's her name. وَانْظُرْ إِلَىٰ تَمْزِيقِ ذَا أَثْوَابَهُ. He said, the man who is drunk, I saw him tearing his clothing. مِنْ بَعْدِ تَمْزِيقِ الْفُعَادِ اللَّهِ. But the one who was enjoying music, I saw her tearing her heart. He said, I saw her tearing her heart. That night she was not sleeping. She was busy messaging the whole night. Do you love me? You love me not. You love me? You love me not. If you don't answer, I'm going to kill myself. He only tore his clothing. She tore her heart. وَاحْكُمْ فَأَيُّ الْخَمْرَتَيْنِ أَحَقُّ بِالتَّحْرِيمِ. He says, now you make the decision. Which of the two intoxicants is more deserving of tahrim, of being called haram, وَالتَّعْثِيمِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ, and being regarded by Almighty Allah as the worst of crimes. It is this music that at the beginning it seems so harmless, but when Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, as soon as it starts, the angels go. When Quran indicated, as soon as it starts, Quran goes. When great people of the past said, as soon as it starts, the ladders of zina come. When Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when you will see that woman as she moves her body, she will be ma'ilat, she will be inclined towards the men of the world, but mumilat, the men of the world will be walking towards her. Understand, while your child is young, don't let even on your phone that tone of music play. Because poison, when it hits at the beginning, it will break the structure very soon after. Thereafter, to get back on a stone that is slippery is very, very difficult. May Allah Ta'ala protect my ears and your ears, my heart and your heart, from the love and the sounds of anything that is musical. Our Umar bin Abdul Aziz said, teach your child the hatred. May Allah Ta'ala put that hatred in my heart, in your hearts. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.